Hi, I'm Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, and today we're going to be working on this Daiwa Great Lakes 47 LC line counter fishing reel. It's a level wind reel, and it's got a line counter. It seems to work just fine. And we're going to take it apart, clean it up, and make sure that it's serviceable and ready to go fishing. First thing we're going to do is remove the cap for the handle. With the cap off, you'll now see that there's an E-clip right here. We're going to pop that E-clip off. There we go. Put it over in the parts tray. Now we're going to remove the nut. With the nut removed, we can now remove the handle and the star drag nut. And at this point, we should be able to remove these 3 screws. With those out, we should be able to remove the cover, I believe. Maybe not. We may have to take this one out over here. Okay, now notice that we have 3 different sizes of screw here. The 2 large ones go in here and here. Those are the long ones. The short one goes in up here, right there, and then the tiny one comes in up here in the line counter. With those out, we should be able to remove the side cover. There we go. Looks pretty clean inside, but we are still going to take the bridge apart, take it off, and go through, lubricate, clean everything. But we'll come back to that. First, we'll go back over here to the main case, remove the spool. With the spool removed, we can now examine down inside here. This is our clicker, and if you notice, it's switchable. In this position it will click, in this position it will not, and that's going to ride on this clicker cog right here. Alright, look it all over inside. Now if we wanted to, we could remove this screw right here, and when you take that screw out, this is the clicker spring, it will come out. There's no need to take it out, everything here is clean, so we're going to leave it in. And if you needed to replace this gear right here, this is for your level wind, this gear right here, that's for your level wind. If you needed to replace that gear, you would need to take this spring out to access this screw and lift the gear out. Alright, but it's all in good shape. We're going to wipe it out just a little bit with a cotton swab. The grease that is in there is pretty old, so it's good that we're doing this. Now that we've got it to that point, we're going to add 1 single drop of oil into the bushing at the end. Now a lot of these big reels like this would have a bearing here, but this one doesn't. It's got a bushing, and that spool is going to ride in that bushing. We're going to put a little bit of, well, first let's wipe it off and clean off all the old grease out of this cog. This, like I said, this is the cog for the clicker. All right, with that done, we'll put some new grease in. And we'll set that back. Well, no, we're going to leave that for now because we want to look at this level wind. All right, the level wind assembly here is very dirty, so we're going to pull it out and scrub it up. Okay, this is the level wind rod right here. It goes in here. And the level wind assembly rides along it right there. But it just, because the side rail is out, side panel is out, you can just lift it out. Alright, we need to take out this small E-clip right here. Should get all the grease off of it. The screwdriver first. Still got grease on the screwdriver. Alright, let's try it one more time. Okay, you want to keep your finger on this E-clip to keep it from flying off in the event that it pops loose. Alright, there we go. We're going to be putting it right back on, so I'm not going to put it in the parts tray. We're going to set it right here, over to this side. Now watch, you've got a very small washer right here on the top, and you've got a gear that pops up. Then you've got this keeper assembly right here, bushing. Lift that out. With that out, we now should be able to remove the, I've got one more thing left to do. Got to remove the pawl screw. Pawl screws off. Alright. This one doesn't have a washer. Alright. If you ever tried to remove these pawls out of here, it's very difficult to do. You can bang it and everything else. One of the things I recently discovered works great on these is a rare earth magnet. You can simply put it over the top and look at that. It just takes the pawl right out. Yeah, this pawl's got a lot of grease and dirt on it, so we're going to want to clean that up. But yeah, that rare earth magnet trick is a humdinger. I like that. Now, with the pawl out, can we take this out? No, it's still attached to the gear. There we go. We got a cover on the end here. We've got to pop out. There we go. Get that out. Now, that worm gear will slide out this way. And it's not as dirty as it looked like it was inside the shaft. The sleeve itself is more dirty than this is. But we're going to clean it up, clean up the sleeve here, and we're going to put it back. Alright, this one took me a minute to figure out. So I'm going to show you how this goes together, but we're going to do it first real quickly outside of the body of the fishing reel. This bar will go in the reel, and that will latch over it like this. This rod, this is your worm gear, is going to go into this. Now there's two sides of this. One is notched and one is not. Okay, the notch side goes to the handle side of the reel. This is going to fit into here. First, this will go into here, like so. This will then go in like this. Oh, one piece missing. This right here, this bushing, plastic bushing, goes in the end of the shaft, right there. Then this goes in. Then your pawl goes in along with this little washer. Don't lose this little washer. It fits up inside of here. I've had one of those show up laying on my counter, on my table one day after I got done putting a reel together, and it took me forever to figure out where that thing went. Then you've got a bushing on this side that goes in like so, and those little notches there fit into that bushing. Then your gear goes on. Then goes the little washer. It's on top of the gear here. See this little washer? It fits on, and then goes your E-clip. Okay, showing you the direction that everything goes. Then it goes in the cap. So that's where everything goes. So we're going to pull it back apart real quick and reinstall it in the reel so that you know how it goes. Okay, the first part we're going to want to install is this bushing on the end of this tube. Then we'll get it over here, slide it part of the way in. Now, take your carrier, slide it in, and then slide it across to the other side and install this bushing. And it's got this notch plate right here. Once you've got it in place, you can rotate this until it locks in to those notches on that lock plate. You'll feel it once it goes. Right there. Okay, and then make sure that the rest of it is locked in. So far it's not. There we go. Locked in. Okay, the bushing's in this side. The bushing's in this side, locked in place. Now, you can leave the pawl off for a moment. Let's go ahead and put the worm gear in. Once it slides into place, let's leave it up. Once it slides into place, you can go ahead and put this part on with the gear facing up. And we're not in all the way. There we go. When you're in all the way, you'll know it. And everything's lined up because you'll now have room to install the washer on the top, and then goes your E-clip. I like to use a pair of pliers to snip those in, keep a finger on it so it doesn't fly off. There we go. That's locked into place. We can now install the cover on the side. It's got cutout up here, notch right there for that to go into. That'll keep it all nice and lined up there. All right. There's two possibilities for how to slide this tube in when you're rotating into that slot. You can put it where it's going down, where it's supposed to be, or you can put it where it's going up like it's not supposed to be, like I've just done. So I've shown you that mistake. Let me pop this off. We'll slip it out just a little bit. Pop the clip off, lift it out, just enough to get clearance. Rotate that slot down to where it's facing down now instead of up. You'd think they would have made that idiot proof, but they didn't. So there is no proof against me. All right, we're gonna have to pop this cap back off to get in there. There we go. Okay. Now we can put the clip back on. except it won't stay holding up. Okay, got that in place. Pop the E-clip back in place. Now we've got it in the correct configuration. Slots where it belongs. And now we can put this rod back in. When you put it in, make sure that the J slides over it. And now it's in place. Only thing left to do for that portion is to reinstall your pawl. It's easier if you slide it out towards the middle, at least for me it is. And then slip it in, rotate the gear. Once you've got it to where it's moving properly, reinstall the little washer on top, reinstall the cap, screw it down, and now oil the worm gear. Rotate it around, add some oil to the other side. Now you've got your worm gear properly lubricated. Make sure your J-hook stays in and the rod stays in place. Smooth as glass. Now we can reinstall the spool. Remember, this side goes in. Slide it down inside. There we go. And if your clicker works properly, it should, at this point, be able to click. And it does. Turn that off. All right. Now we're ready to rebuild this side. Most large star drag washer reels like this have the screws on the inside for the bridge. This one has them on the outside. First thing we're going to note is this spring right here. That is for your anti-reverse dog, and you got to make sure that that's not just going to flip out of there. So I will go ahead and unhook it right now so that it can't go anywhere, or at least I'm going to try to. It's kind of difficult to get to it. Okay, that's unhooked. Now we're going to remove these 4 screws off the bridge. Oftentimes, lower and upper bridge screws are different sizes. So we're going to take a look here, see if these are the same. And they are the same. So we won't have to worry about that. With those removed, we should now be able to lift the bridge out. Let's go ahead and turn it over this way and let it fall down so that everything will hopefully stay mostly in place. Okay. All right. What we've got here, these are our yoke springs right here. You don't want to lose them. Everything in here is nice and clean. This is our counter. Let's go ahead and but normally they tell me that plastic doesn't need to be greased, that it's self-lubricating. I'm a little leery of that, so I always kind of add a little grease myself. Inspect the teeth, make sure they're all good. This counter worked great, so I don't expect there's... Okay, before any of you think I'm a really smart guy, let's put a halt to that notion right off the bat. I've been working at this thing for about an hour and a half trying to finally get it together. And I had to go back, I had to reach out to my mentor, Dennis Kuntz over at Second Chance Tackle to finally get the how-to and what fors on how to get this thing back together. So let's go ahead now and do it. I just finished doing it. Now I can believe I can do it again. All right. First thing you want to do is make sure these two springs are in here. All right, here we go. We're going to try to assemble this portion first. Take your gear tube, slide it on. It's got the hard washer down here. Next comes your gear. Put your gear on. And remember, it's not keyed, it just slides over. Okay, it slides into place. Next comes a hard drag washer. After that comes a keyed drag washer. Metal. Slide it down inside there. Then comes a fabric drag washer. Next comes your eared drag washer. Next comes hard washer. And finally your last keyed washer for the drag stack. Then comes these two. Now what I tried to do before, when I tried to put this together, is I tried to assemble this and leave these off and this collar off. Well, when I did that, every time I try to insert this in, it all fell off. So what I've done is I've added a little grease to the gear tube and slide the collar on. That collar serves to hold it all together, keep everything from just dropping off of there. All right, with that in place, now we're ready to install the anti-reverse dog. It goes over here on the side. It's got the post. That post slips through. That post is going to be held in by a screw, so don't be nervous that it's just sitting there loose. Okay, it's going to be held in. With that all assembled, we're going to set it over to the side and go back to the case. We're going to set the yoke in, the pinion gear into the yoke. Set the yoke down in on top of the two springs and hold it down. Then we are going to install the transition plate. Like so. And now it's not going to want to hold itself, so go ahead and transition it over there. When it's in that position, you can hold it in place with a thumb. And you've got to make sure that your pinion gear stays in place. Now with all that in place, go ahead and transition this into the case. Should slide down inside. It's going to knock onto this post here, and this post, that locks it into place. Make sure that your shift dog, your anti-reverse dog is in place. At this time, see the spring? You're going to want to go ahead and put it on this post over here. If you don't get it on the post before locking this plate down, it won't go on the post because the plate sits just slightly onto the post and keeps it from grabbing hold. All right? Now, if you notice right here, this transition plate is not where it needs to be. It's not sitting there. It just dropped into place. All right? You should be able to activate that, and it should move up and down. When that moves up and down, it should be transitioning or shifting the pinion gear up and down. With all that held in place, keep your thumb on it. Don't let it loose. Go ahead and put a screw in. Don't tighten it all the way, just most of the way. All right. Put the one 180 degrees from it in. Get it started. Now notice that this post for the anti-reverse dog is trying to slide out of the hole. Go ahead and slide it back down in there and put that screw in. Put your last screw in, get it started. Now that they're all started, you can go ahead and tighten it down. That brings us back to the spring. Now, unless you've got a tiny little hook to hook onto that spring and loop it over here, what I suggest is the way I do it, which is I go back about 2 loops back on the spring and just insert a small screwdriver into it, pull it over. Be careful not to bend the spring. And hook it onto the anti-reverse dog. Now, if you've done everything correctly, there's your anti-reverse dog working. It will not rotate backwards. If you do like I just did, we had flipped that back and forth before I tightened the screws down all the way, and this post had slid out of the notch that it's supposed to be in, which prevented it from being able to rotate. Don't force it, just loosen the screws up, realign it back into place so that it will flip properly. All right. With all of that done, now we still haven't greased the gear down there, and I didn't want to put grease on it because it was so difficult to handle the way it was. So let's go ahead, now that we have it in place and we can easily access it, let's go ahead and put grease on the gear. And you don't have to grease every tooth. As you rotate the handle, the gear is going to rotate and it's going to spread grease around. Just need a little bit. So you can see your anti-reverse dog right there activating. All right, with that done, we're ready to put the case back together. Slide the side plate on. And remember, we had 3 different size screws. We had this teeny tiny screw. We're going to put it in last. We've got the short screw, which goes up here. Got the 2 long screws, which go over here in the fat part of the case. Brings us down to installing the star knob for drag. If you need to put the handle on to tighten it, you can. Nice drag. Okay, before we install this washer and this E-clip, we have to tighten this nut down. Now we can install the washer and the E-clip. Okay, snapped into place. The only thing left is put this cover on. Tighten the screw down. There we have it. There we have it, properly serviced. Spins nicely. Loosen it up just a little bit. There we go. This reel is ready to go fishing once I put new line on it. So this is by far one of my most difficult challenges, and but don't let it run you off. The instructions are there. Everything is there for you to be able to go through, pull the reel apart, clean it all up, put it back together. I think I made it as detailed as possible, and I believe that pretty much anybody out there following those directions will be able to do it. All right, if there's anything I've missed on it, please by all means let me know so I can fix that. Thank you.